Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. When many people talk about left and right, their first reaction is to label them. Leftist, white leftist, holy mother raising lazy people. Right-wing, cold-blooded capital, first natural selection. But if we put aside these emotional labels for a moment, you will find that the core of the debate between left and right has always revolved around the same issue. When a person falls behind, should society give him a hand? The rightists say you can pull, but you can't pull indefinitely. Because life is competitive and resources are limited, any society needs to reward effort, ability, responsibility, and creativity. The leftists said, of course we must pull it. Because a person falls behind, it may not be because he is lazy, it may be because of illness, family origin, economic crisis, or simply living in an era that was no longer kind to him. These two sounds actually represent two deep fears. The right is afraid that society will lose incentives, those who work hard will be punished, and those who are lazy will be rewarded. The left is afraid people will be completely commodified by the market. Once it loses its ability to work, consume, and compete, it will be treated as worthless waste. So what the right is asking is, who will pay for the benefits? The left is asking, if there is no welfare, what should the person who has been struck down by fate do? This was originally an issue worthy of serious discussion, but the internet has pushed it to two extremes, while saying if you can't keep up with the times, you deserve to be eliminated. The other side said as long as you are successful, you must take advantage of others. The former thinks life is too fair. The latter regards human efforts as too worthless. And the really cruel reality is, effort is important, but effort is never everything. Why are winners more likely to believe in natural selection? What kind of family a person is born into, what kind of education he has received, whether he has support from his parents, whether he is in good health. Have you caught up with the trend of the industry? Have you met noble people? Or even whether you happen to be born in a period of economic growth, these factors, they all profoundly affect a person's destiny. The reason why some people believe in natural selection is not necessarily because they are naturally cold-blooded. It's because they are now in the fittest position. He has a good education, decent job, decent income, good health, smart children, and is on the rise in the industry. When he looks back at those who were eliminated, he will naturally come to a conclusion. Look, I work hard, why can't you? It means the problem is yours. This logic is very tempting, because it not only explains your success, it makes you believe your success is completely deserved. But the most ironic thing about life is that you think you are the beneficiary of the rules. Maybe it's just because the rules haven't touched you yet. In the past, when a worker lost his job, it might be because the factory had moved away. Later, when a white-collar worker loses his job, it may be because the company outsourced the job. Today, a designer, programmer, translator, customer service, accountant, copywriter. Even some doctors, lawyers, and teachers are beginning to discover. It turns out that I am not irreplaceable. When AI replaces you, it will not notify you in advance. We used to say something. When time abandons you, it won't even say goodbye. But in the AI era, one more sentence can be added to this sentence. When the AI replaces you, it will even politely thank you for providing training data. This is, of course, a bit exaggerated, but it points out a reality: technological changes are taking place from manual labor to all the way into a large number of areas of intellectual work that were once considered relatively stable. Robots can move goods, deliver goods, clean, patrol, and manufacture. AI can handle customer service, generate basic copywriting, translate documents, review materials, create pictures, write some codes, organize data, edit videos, and even assist in medical treatment, education, legal, and financial jobs. In the past, right-wing competition logic had an important premise. As long as you are willing to learn, work hard, and transform, you will most likely be able to find a new position. Coal miners could be transferred to factories. Factory workers could enter the service industry. People in the service industry can learn computers, and enter the internet industry. Every technological revolution eliminates old jobs, but also creates new ones. So people want to believe it will be painful in the short term, but better in the long term. But the challenge of AI and robots may not be just to eliminate a job. Create a new job is as simple as that. Its characteristics are wider substitution range, faster deployment, and lower replication cost. Once a software matures, it can serve millions of users in a short period of time. Once an automated system is rolled out, the company may not necessarily need the same amount of manpower. The real question is, can the speed of human retraining catch up with the speed of technological replacement? Not all unemployment is due to lack of effort. After a 45-year-old customer service supervisor was partially or even substantially replaced by an AI system. Of course, you can learn new skills. But the problem is, how long will he study? Who supports the family while studying? After completing the course, how many such positions will the market still need? Does he want to live with a 22-year-old man with no family burden? Competition from young people who are familiar with new tools and can accept low wages. When try harder is no longer enough to solve the problem, can we still say lightly, if you can't keep up, you will be eliminated? This is not a defense of laziness. Of course, a society cannot encourage laziness. Don't let "I don't want to work hard" become a reason to ask for unlimited support from others. But we must distinguish two things. A person's unwillingness to work hard and a person who works hard but is still systematically replaced are not the same thing. The former is a matter of personal choice. The latter may be a matter of changes in the entire social structure. When more and more people work hard, pay taxes on time, and work hard to support their families, they begin to face the prospect of being replaced. When salaries and careers are cut, the debate between left and right is no longer an ideological debate on the books. It will become an unavoidable problem for every ordinary family. Who does the wealth created by AI ultimately belong to? If robots and AI significantly improve the overall productivity of society, make goods cheaper and services more efficient. If business profits are higher, then the question is no longer just, does society have money? Instead, to whom does this wealth created by technology ultimately go? Is it mainly flowing to a few people who own algorithms, chips, data, computing power, robots, and platforms? Or can it be achieved through lower cost of living, better public services, more reliable medical education, fuller retraining opportunities back for the majority of ordinary people? This is the core political issue in the AI era. If technological dividends only belong to a very small number of capital owners, society may form an increasingly tense structure. A few people own the machines. Machines create a lot of wealth. A large number of ordinary people have lost their stable jobs. People without income have reduced spending power. Consumption has dropped and companies cannot sell their products. The gap between rich and poor is widening, and anxiety, antagonism, and social instability are rising. This is not a simple hatred of the rich, but a problem of basic economic circulation. Ordinary people are not only workers, but also consumers. The middle class is not only taxpayers, but also an important buffer for social stability. If more and more people lose their decent income and hope for upward mobility, eventually no one can really stay out of it. The left's solution and the right's concerns. In the face of the impact of AI, left-leaning views usually emphasize more: better unemployment protection and social safety net, share technology dividends more fairly, public health education and housing support, lifelong education and career transition for adults, constraints on platform monopoly and supercapital, shorten working hours and let technology bring more lifetime. Even exploring universal basic income. The so-called universal basic income, simply put, means that everyone, regardless of whether they have a traditional job or not, all receive an income to maintain basic living. The idea behind it is, if machines can already create extremely high productivity, so is there a traditional job? It should not be the only condition for a person to live with dignity. But the right's concerns about this are by no means unreasonable. Where does the money come from? Will it push up the tax burden? Will it cause dependence? Who decides who gets to take it and how much? Will the government expand its power indefinitely in the name of protection? If a person is no longer needed for work, where will his sense of purpose, dignity, and social connection come from? Because people never need more than money. People also need the feeling of I am useful. Needing to be needed by others. Need to create, participate, take responsibility. You need to know that you are not a person who is supported by the system and then sits quietly in the corner. Therefore, the mature answer cannot be just pay money, nor can it be just not pay money. The future requires a new social contract. What really needs to be discussed may be a new social contract. On the one hand, it must admit that technological progress cannot only benefit a few people. The displaced people need a buffer period, educational opportunities, re-employment channels, and basic dignity. On the other hand, it must also admit that welfare is not the end. People still need responsibility, participation, creation, and being needed by society. Future social security cannot just be, you're unemployed, give you some money. It should also include education and training that can truly help adults change careers, not just getting certificates. Affordable and accessible health, childcare, elderly care, and housing support. Taxation and distribution mechanisms that allow technology dividends to flow back to society more equitably. Rules to prevent a few super platforms from monopolizing data traffic in markets. Shorter but more secure working hours. Let care for children, the elderly, community service, and personal growth also be seen as valuable social contributions. At the end of the day, society shouldn't be limited only when you can produce at a high rate, pay a lot of taxes, and continue to consume. Only then do you recognize that you have value. Technology has no position, only rules do. Technology itself has no left or right. Robots will not naturally side with capital. Nor does AI naturally support the welfare state. What determines who they ultimately serve is not technology, but rules. The same robot can save workers a few hours a day from doing dangerous, repetitive, physically damaging work without a drop in wages. This is technology liberating people. But the same robot can also allow the company to lay off half of its employees. Distribute profits mainly to shareholders, allowing the remaining people to take on more work and bear greater pressure. This is technology eliminating people. The same AI tool can help doctors discover risks faster. Help teachers teach students in accordance with their aptitude, help small businesses lower the threshold, and help ordinary people improve efficiency. But it can also be used to monitor employees, depressing wages, concentrating wealth, and creating information manipulation and career barriers. Technology is just a knife. The system determines whether it is a scalpel or a sickle. China's left is not the same as Europe and the United States left. Many people like to directly discuss China's left and Europe and America's left together. But the focus of the two is actually different. In the European and American political context, the left usually emphasizes high welfare and public services, public health and education, labor rights, stronger social security, reduce inequality through taxes and transfers, more constraints on capital and monopoly power. Its basic exchange logic is, the government collects more taxes, but it should also provide clearer and more universal public protections. In the Chinese context, when many people talk about left, they are more likely to think of state power, collective narrative, order management, emphasis on fairness, and vigilance to market logic. So a very practical question arises. If the government has a strong sense of presence, but ordinary people have problems in housing, medical care, education, faced with key risks such as pensions and unemployment, there is still a lack of stable and predictable safety nets. What people may feel is not being protected, but being managed. This also explains why many people have mixed feelings about big government. Everyone is not necessarily opposed to what the government does. What people are really worried about may be: there is a lot of control, but not enough information. The demands are many, but the rights are not clear enough. We talk about community, but when individuals really encounter difficulties, they can only bear it by themselves. And when AI automation impacts more jobs, these problems will only become more acute. There is certainly nothing wrong with saying you have to embrace change to a person who is about to be replaced. But it's a bit like saying to a sinking person, you have to learn to swim. If you don't even give him a floating board, that's not encouragement, it's just standing on the shore and reasoning. Why do people change from right to left? So I feel more and more that it is normal for a person to lean to the right when he is young. When you are young, you believe in ability. You believe in struggle. You believe in competition. You believe that as long as you run fast enough, life will reward you. This belief is particularly strong when you are on the rise. But when you go through layoffs, illness, raising children, when taking care of the elderly, or seeing a person who is working hard being suddenly knocked down by fate, you will begin to understand the left. It's not because you've become weak. Precisely because you begin to see that human destiny is not entirely determined by will. Likewise, one supports welfare, social security, and restrictions on capital. Nor does it mean that he is against effort, competition, or the creation of wealth. You might just think there should be a running track for competition, but there should also be guardrails next to the running track. Of course, the strong should run. Innovation should certainly be rewarded. Efforts should certainly be rewarded. But the bottom line of a civilized society should not be to see who dies faster after falling. Instead, it should be: when a person falls, does he have a chance to stand up? When a child is born, his or her life is basically determined by the wealth of his parents. When machines are more efficient than people, can people still have dignity, income, and hope? The biggest division in the future. The biggest social division in the future may no longer be just left and right in the traditional sense. Instead, it has AI, data computing power. A schism between the people of robots and platforms and the people whose value is redefined by these technologies. By that time, you will find that those benefits that sound far away today, issues such as employment, taxation, education, and social security, are not necessarily just white leftist pretensions. They are actually discussing the most fundamental issue in advance. When most people are no longer indispensable screws in the production machine, how do we prove that every ordinary person is still worthy of being taken seriously by this society? Because you think you are ahead of the times today. But no one knows what will be on the next technological upgrade, the next round of industrial restructuring, the next list of people to be optimized. Will your name appear? Thank you for watching. If you like my channel, you are welcome to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.